Venezuelan president demanded the United Nations to intervene in the kidnapping of 238 Venezuelan migrants in El Salvador, sent there by the U.S. government. On Tuesday, the Chinese government accused the United States of interfering in Venezuela's internal affairs, urging it to stop abusing the imposition of illegal sanctions. And the Russian government assures that it is in favor of resuming the Black Sea Initiative in a more acceptable way for all and with clear warranties. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro has demanded the United Nations to intervene in the imprisonment of 238 Venezuelan migrants in El Salvador who were sent there by the U.S. government under accusations of belonging to the Tren de Aragua gang. Maduro called this action a kidnapping and blamed Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele for not guaranteeing the health and the release of the detainees. Maduro denounced that these migrants were deported without evidence or trial and affirmed that many were deceived, believing that they would be repatriated to Venezuela. In addition, the Venezuelan government announced legal efforts to ensure the safe return of the migrants and called these deportations a crime against humanity. In response, citizens and international organizations have organized simultaneous mobilizations in several countries, including Venezuela, Mexico, Honduras, and Chile, demanding the immediate release of the Venezuelan detained in El Salvador. This March 25th, the Venezuelan people will mobilize in Caracas in support of Venezuelan migrants who have suffered mistreatment, especially those kidnapped in El Salvador. The march, called by the Secretary General of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, PSUV, Diosdado Cabello, seeks to reject justifications for violent acts against Venezuelans and to express solidarity with the migrants. The mobilization also responds to the application of the Public Enemy Act by Donald Trump's administration, which has generated repudiation in Venezuela. Recently, 199 Venezuelan nationals returned to Venezuela from Honduras after being deported from the United States, which has been set as a success of the return to the homeland plan. U.S. judges and journalists reject the government's decision that ended in the kidnapping of 238 Venezuelans in El Salvador and claim that Nazis got a better deal with the Foreign Enemies Law. Judge Karen Henderson, one of the three judges of the Court of Appeals that is reviewing to block the aforementioned law, upset the Deputy Attorney General Drew Ensing by making an analogy with the Nazis who applied the law that today discriminates against the Venezuelan migrants. In this same line, the journalist Camilo Montoya Galvez revealed the list of names of the Venezuelan citizens kidnapped in El Salvador, assures that the investigations of the government and the media have not obtained links with the extinct criminal gang known as the Tren of Aragua. On Tuesday, the Chinese government accused the United States of interfering in Venezuela's internal affairs, urging it to stop abusing the imposition of illegal sanctions. Precisely during the press conference of the office, the spokesman of China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Wo Yakun, rejected the so-called long-arm jurisdiction after Washington announced tariffs of up to 25% on imports from countries that buy oil and gas from Caracas. The diplomat added that the United States is seriously interfering in the internal affairs of other countries and assured that China is firmly opposed, and reminded Washington that the imposition of tariffs will only cause greater losses for American companies and consumers.
We call on the U.S. to stop interfering in Venezuela's internal affairs, abolish the illegal unilateral sanctions imposed on Venezuela and do more things that are conducive to the peace, stability, and development of Venezuela and other countries.
The former U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Jessica D. Aber, was found dead in her Alexandria home on Saturday morning. Aber left her post in January after Donald Trump became president. The lawyer had been appointed U.S. Attorney in Virginia in 2021 by then-President Joseph Biden to handle cases involving terrorism, violent gang crime, and leaks of classified documents. Authorities said the former prosecutor's death may have been caused by a long-standing medical problem. Autopsy results are still pending. The U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigations created a special task force to conduct an investigation into the attacks of Tesla vehicles. On Monday, the director in charge of public affairs, Ben Williamson, informed that the ATF is also involved in the investigation. Earlier, President Donald Trump called the criminal acts committed against Elon Musk's brand terrorist and sec. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, said she has filed charges against 3 people accused of setting fire to the brand's vehicles, for whom she has requested sentences ranging from 5 to 20 years in prison. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Paraguay, the first of 3 days of mobilizations against labor law violations, among other things committed by the government of Santiago Peña, will take place this Tuesday. The mobilization in the city of Asunción will go to the Plaza de Armas, located in front of the legislative branch, to denounce nepotism and the neglect of the health system. Almost 100 civil society organizations are expected to mobilize, including workers, senior citizens, indigenous peoples, and urban and rural collectives, as well as young people from the National Crusade movement. The social movements and organizations are demanding the rights, pointing out that these have been violated by the government of Santiago Peña, and they are also demanding the defense of freedom, democracy, and social justice. In Chile, the teachers' unions mobilized throughout the country against the lack of resources and government support, in addition to serious cases of mental health problems. In more details with our correspondent, Paula Dragnik.
Practically 100% of the teachers demonstrated in the capital, but also in the rest of the country. The slogan? That educating does not cost them their lives.
We want no more violence in the school. We want our students to not see their right to education violated, and at the same time that we, as workers, are no longer afraid to face the classroom every day.
For almost a week now, teacher Elena Cano has been fighting for her life in the south of the country. She was assaulted by a student with autism who was unregulated in class, opening several debates: stigma and discrimination, teacher specialization, the role of the ministry, and the effective functioning of the so-called inclusion law.
This was a case linked to bad inclusion policies. A student who should have had a shadow tutor who should have had much more professional support. And not to leave that teacher alone facing a situation that is absolutely difficult, complex, and beyond her capabilities. A teacher who, in addition to seeing to the student who is not regulated, has to take care of the other 39 in the room. This is something that, of course, is not a true inclusion. These are not the conditions.
We subject teachers do not have the specific preparation to work with students with some type of condition. We only have the integration program. which supports young people with these conditions.
But everything indicates that, in addition to the work overload and the lack of resources, there is the ineffectiveness of the inclusion laws. These shortcomings exacerbate the problem of school and social violence in a post-pandemic Chile with high rates of mental health problems.
The problem of violence in Chile today, especially school violence, is the main serious issue to be faced in Chilean education.
And the Ministry of Education has not made any pronouncement on the union's demands despite their urgency.
We want them to listen to us and see our demands, which have been made for years and have not yet been solved in public education and in education in general. Do not let public education die.
We need public policies that are grounded and contextualized to the reality of the classroom.
A reality that is reflected within the educational establishments, but that seems to respond to a national phenomenon that involves the whole of society.
Violence is structural. It has to do with the lack of resources. It has to do with the lack of public policies. It has to do with the lack of funding. It has to do with the lack of guarantee of rights. It has to do with how communities are also linked to situations of violence that occur around them, because it is part of a social phenomenon.
There's no doubt. This woman assaulted her neighbors because of a notice on the street asking for caution when driving. Children playing, it said. Something is wrong with the mental health of Chileans.
Carolina Sandoval y Paola Drachnik, TeleSUR, Chile.
In other information, Cuba launched the second national exercise for the prevention and fighting of crime, corruption and social disruption to strengthen mechanisms and structures at all levels to guarantee citizen security. This second exercise follows the one developed in December 2024 and will run until March 29th. President Miguel Díaz-Canel took part in the meeting held to launch the process, together with other representatives of the Central Committee of the Communist Party. All the state structures from the provincial level to the popular councils participate in this paramount exercise. This Tuesday, the emperors Naruhito and Masako of Japan received the President of Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, and his wife, Rosângela da Silva, at the Imperial Palace in Tokyo. The meeting marks the beginning of the Brazilian president's official visit to the Asian country, which aims to strengthen areas of bilateral cooperation, such as security and investment. The Brazilian president is trying to get Japan to open negotiations to adopt a free trade agreement with Mercosur. Brazil is seeking new markets for products that may face restrictions in the United States because of President Donald Trump's aggressive tariff policy. The Russian government assures that it is in favor of resuming the Black Sea initiative in a more acceptable way for all, with clear guarantees. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov assured that Russia's position is not to trust the words of the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Therefore, he stressed the importance of creating conditions so that no one would try to keep Russia away from the dialogue. The head of Russian diplomacy stressed the need for clear guarantees of the treaty only if the United States succeeds in making Ukraine keep its word. The senior Russian diplomat stressed that with the implementation of the treaty, the grain and fertilizer market will be not only for the economic benefit of Russia, but also for food security in Africa. And we have a second show coming up, but first we want to invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. You can follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final show break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to From the South. In Lebanon, the Hezbollah resistance movement ensured not to allow the normalization of relations with the Israeli regime under the pretext of reconstructing the country, as the United States had urged to make it happen. The deputy head of the political council of the Hezbollah movement, Mahmoud Kamati, stood out three main issues. First, his country must be liberated from the Israeli occupation forces, prisoners must be released, and the 13-point file with the enemy must be closed. The authority further pointed out that as long as the Lebanese soil be exposed to the Zionist regime's shellings, the aggressions would not stop. Hezbollah and the people are committed to resistance, as it is considered a fundamental pillar in the defense of the territory. Likewise, the movement rejected the presence of occupation troops, the violation of both the ceasefire and the deadline for withdrawing from the occupied territories. In Palestine, Israeli strikes have killed at least 65 people in Gaza in the past 24 hours, including women, children, and 2 journalists. According to Palestinian doctors, an Israeli attack hit a school housing displaced people in the Gaza Strip on Monday, killing at least 4 people, including a child. Another 18 people were wounded in Monday's attack, and another 18 people also were killed on the Nusayrat refugee camp, while another 25 were killed in attacks overnight and on Monday. Also, in this new wave of attacks, journalists Hossam Shabbat and Mohammed Mansour were killed in a new attempt to silence the media and hide the crimes of the occupation against the people of Gaza. In this context, and following Sunday's attacks on the Nasser hospital, the United Nations calls for no damage to medical facilities as Israeli attacks in Gaza intensify. In this regard, the United Nations spokesperson explained that the organization's staff continues to receive reports of attacks on medical facilities, ambulances, and medical personnel in Gaza who have described it as horrific. It is important to note that Israel's attacks on hospitals have been part of its genocide from the beginning, affecting the entire healthcare system and paralyzing it almost entirely. This Tuesday, the international network monitoring service NetBlocks reported a massive internet outage affecting the entire country of Syria. In a message published on the X social network, the monitoring platform pointed out that real-time network data showed the interruption of the service at a national level, affecting telecommunications in several cities of the country. This digital blackout comes in the midst of fresh airstrikes by the Israeli army. This also NetBlocks has confirmed the scale of the outage, although no details have yet been provided as to its cause. This contingency adds to the tensions and the intense information blockade maintained by the de facto government, which is led by former members of the Al-Qaeda terrorist group. Ecuador's National Risk Management Secretariat reported that the death of at least 20 people as a result of torrential rains in the last 24 hours. The authority also indicated that since the beginning of 2025, the country has faced more than 2,000 adverse events, which affected 23 provinces of the country due to the weather season. Likewise, 98 people were injured, 18,685 people were affected, and more than 33,000 houses were affected as well, of which 150 were destroyed. Given this, the Ecuadorian government maintains the regional state of emergency for 60 days, as well as red, orange, and yellow alerts according to the magnitude of risk in each province. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.